What's up, everybody? It is the Dark Conservatarian, and you are listening to Strike Force News right now. And I do not know if you can see that well right there, but I recently got my hair cut, so it's not as much of a mess as before. And what's up to everybody who might be watching in the future? More specifically, I think I only have currently one viewer. I think it's mostly because of the fact that YouTube has decided to flag my live stream because I would mention the forbidden C word beer virus. But it's whatever at this point. I decided to just be rather blunt with the title of this live stream, as the subject matter of today's live stream is going to be about, quite frankly, COVID fascism. In Australia, more specifically. I mean, there's no other way of putting it except it's COVID fascism at this point, especially with the story that you might have heard about in regards of the dogs that got shot because I think it was some animal shelter attendees. They were watching over these dogs. They were like attending to these dogs in their animal shelter in defiance of COVID restrictions. And because of that, their dogs got shot over that. So, yeah. What other way to put it except it's outright fascism on the government's part right there. And in response to some of these lockdowns, like you guys might have heard, of course it's actually been known for a while anyways, that Australia has been one of the more fascistic in the world, quite frankly, with China being obviously more so than Australia with their lockdowns. By saying that people can only leave their house with the absolutely essential necessities or for absolute essential necessities of life, and even taken it so far to have drone surveillance in some cases, as that was mostly talked about by Bering. But even some of the resources that I had pre-read for this episode of Strike Force, they go pretty much emphasizing that. Put this over here. No, I did not mean to leave it like that. There we go. Ignore that. That's actually for a little bit later on this episode. But yeah, as you can see right now, I pre-read these articles, both from Reuters and NPR, talking about the protests that have happened, and even some one article from Washington Post. I mean, I consider Washington Post completely uncredible anyways, but I just decided to take them with a grain of salt in regards to this. Basically, the articles that I pre-read talking about as to how that in some cases they are restricting people from leaving their houses at all except for the most essential of essential services, necessities that they have to go out and about for. But nonetheless, in response to these, the people had gotten fed up. They gotten so fed up that they had that there were mass protests. One of them, in one case, got up to 4,000 people, and some of them they ended up storming past the police barriers and up to the Capitol building, the Australia Capitol building more specifically, in Sydney, I believe is what it was. That they're getting fed up, quite frankly. And apparently the police, in retaliation to all this, they are dishing out mostly fines. There have been some arrests done in regards of these protests, but what mostly has happened is a whole bunch of fines because that they dare even break the COVID restrictions at all. That they are against, that they are basically rebelling against the COVID safety measures. COVID safety measures, air quotes. And of course, and even some protests, they just gone outright breaking off. Some of the smaller protests that barely even got started, it was at first only a few dozen people. It didn't even get into hundreds, much less the thousands of people. Some of the smaller of a few dozen people protests have been easily broken up by the police, just full stop, completely stopped by them. And yeah, and there was a pepper spray also involved in some cases, or at least in one of the protests anyways, in response to the protests by the police. And of course, in response to all this, there is all the typical pretentious sophistry from the government officials saying we support democracy and freedom of speech, but, and Of course, you and I believe that there's no but to this. Either you support freedom of speech and freedom of expression in general, or you don't. But they go saying anyways, but we have the health and safety of our people to be tending to in this crisis. So basically, they are taking the method that the Raleigh, North Carolina Police Department had those measures that they had taken at some point last year, except harsher. So it's quite utterly ridiculous. Of course, there is a few more details that I am forgetting. Some of the fines get up to $3,000, over $3,000, United States dollars, that is, anyways. And COVID cases are rising. I'm sorry, I do not know exactly a very good way of making this flow correctly. So I'm just all over the place with me trying to present the information of what I have pre-read here about these restrictions and the response to them. And so sorry that I'm all over the place, but I'm just giving you the basic facts of what's happening here. Basically, the lockdowns have gotten harsher ever since the Delta outbreak. Cases are rising. But all the same, is that worth sacrificing people's free speech? No, I would say an absolute fuck no to that, especially with of how low it is. They even go admitting it themselves that it is fairly low, that there's only like a few thousand and a few hundred more cases and deaths that have happened within the last few months ever since the Delta outbreaks, ever since their spike that they had seen in June. So not worth shutting down people's free speech. But not in the eyes of Australian politicians, apparently. And in response to all this, people are responding by protesting, and then police are responding by fines and in some cases even arrests. It's getting rather ridiculous. Some articles, at least one of them anyways, I don't have it here actually gone defining this as it's looking like a war zone almost. And quite frankly, I would not really blame them for being that hyperbolic. Like it is in the end kind of hyperbolic, because ultimately there is no actual civil war going on with the country of Australia. But these protests, there seems to be a bit of a rising, a little bit of a rising sense of rebellion. Now, one of these articles, can't remember which one it was, Reuters or NPR, gone saying essentially that supposedly anyways, only 7% of people are approving of these anti-lockdown protests. I mean, that does not have any real sway on how I feel about these things, of how much I support these protests in general, but nonetheless it's worth saying. Supposedly the support is low, but I kind of want to call into question that polling service. I think the polling service that they cited was called Udding. I can't remember. And I guess it's also worth mentioning before I forget about it. There have been no technical riots that have happened over these anti-lockdown sentiments. The most that they did was break through police barriers, and they ended up storming down the streets to the Sydney, Australia Capitol building. The Australia Capitol building in Sydney, excuse me. That's the most that that's the worst that it got. There have been a few injuries, not a whole lot in the way of deaths or property damage, even for that matter. So it's quite mild in comparison to the Floyd riots, just to put things in perspective a little bit. And because of how overall restrained the protests have been, I'd say that I am fully in support of them. Now we can obviously discuss case by case and get into the minutia of how much we approve or disapprove, but I say that overall anyways, I applaud the people, this minority of people anyways, at least in Australia, for protesting against this bull crap. So JC Armitage in the live chat, sup? What's up, JC? Drone surveillance? Jesus fucking Christ. Australia is quickly becoming your typical cyberpunk dystopia, but without any of the cool stuff. Sadly, yeah. I mean, unless you consider giant insects and other types of animals that can kill you in a heartbeat cool. Australia Capitol building, I'm surprised the state media hasn't called them insurrectionists, terrorists, but then again, I think Western media is being silent on this one. Yeah, I guess they don't want to, I guess they're wanting to try to portray the rest of the Western world as a whole bunch of, what's the word I'm looking for? Are trying to portray the rest of the Western world as being compliant, for lack of better wording, as compared to the people of America when it comes to, how going along willingly that people are with overall with these lockdowns. Say, oh, look at these other Western world countries. They're a whole lot better than us. Boo, America. But anyway. So, obviously, that is covered right there. That the protests, anyways. Let me check something here. I just wanted to see if there was anybody that joined the call. Guess not. But anyway, on to the one subject here that has been riling people up quite a lot, and quite justifiably, might I add. This is from the Sydney Morning Herald. The title says, "Rescue dogs shot dead by NSW Council due to COVID-19 restrictions." So already pretty inflammatory and pretty pissing people off. Several impounded dogs due to be rescued by a shelter have instead been shot dead by a rural council and NSW under its interpretation of COVID-19 restrictions, alarming animal activists and prompting a government probe. Berkshire Council in the state's northwest killed the dogs to prevent volunteers at a Cobar-based animal shelter from traveling to pick up the animals last week, according to Council's watchdog, the Office of Local Government. So you're attempting to make these dogs suffer loneliness and being unattended to because of your bullshit COVID restrictions. Fuck that. I would almost go so far to say that this is probably one of the cases of when that some forceful retaliation against the police might be justified. Shooting your dogs over trying to tend to some animals under your watch. That's some bullshit. Paula Berlinski in the chat says, among school-age children, measles outbreaks have occurred in schools with vaccination levels of greater than 98%. Morbidity and mortality weekly report, 29th of December 1989. All right, so citing basically an old story about vaccinations, I guess, to sort of point out an example as to how that vaccinating your entire populace is kind of weak. And by the way, Paula, welcome to the program. And might I say that speaking of vaccinations, that is something that we are going to get to here in a little bit after we have covered the whole Aussie story. But anyway, the spokesman said the agency was examining the circumstances of the incident to find out whether companion animal and cruelty prevention laws had been broken. Wait. I think I accidentally skipped this paragraph. Let me start over. Excuse me. OLG has been informed that the council decided to take this course of action to protect its employees and community, including vulnerable Aboriginal populations, from the risk of COVID-19 transmission. Yeah, the dogs are carriers. And what we do to prevent people from getting infected from those possibly transmissible dogs, we shoot them! We kill them all! Fucking psychotic. Might as well just kill everybody in the world then in that case, if this is your reasoning as to why to be doing this bullshit. Fuck you. A spokesman from the government agency said. The spokesman said the agency was examining the circumstances of the incident to find out whether companion animal and cruelty prevention laws had been broken. Yeah, they have. I mean, fuck, I don't even care about the laws. If the government wants to say that there is like some loophole for the police's actions in shooting dogs to, you know, as a method to enforce your COVID-19 restrictions, safety restrictions or whatever. If you want to say that there's some loophole in that for that, I don't really give a fuck if it like is technically allowable by law. This is unethical, just flat out. I mean, I guess at least it's not humans because I do ethically prioritize humans the most. But all the same, this is worth saying, people, to point out as to how fucking outrageous this is. Anyway, the Herald attempted to contact the council administration multiple times, but received no response. And a member of Rural Outback Respite Rescue, the shelter that was supposed to receive the dogs, declined to comment. A source who is familiar with the arrangement said the shelter volunteers were distressed and had COVID-safe measures in place to handle the dogs, one of which was a new mother. Mario Fanboy 3466 says, poor puppy. Indeed. Indeed, Mario Fanboy. Welcome to the show, by the way. According to NSW Health, there have been no recent locally acquired COVID-19 cases in Khobar, although fragments of the virus have been found in the area's sewerage? One too many syllables in your statement right there. In the area's sewage system. The Office of Local Government Minister Shelley Hancock, who has previously faced questions in Parliament over the shooting of animals in council pounds, did not comment. However, animal liberation campaigner Lisa Ryan called for an urgent investigation. We are deeply distressed and completely appalled by this callous dog shooting, and we totally reject council's unacceptable justifications that this animal was apparently undertaken as part of a COVID-safe plan. Ms. Ryan, Animal Liberation's regional campaign manager, said. Yes, Yarmatalus in the live chat says, of course it isn't considered animal cruelty when the state does it. I roll. Right, JC? Right? Anyway, asked during budget estimates in March whether she knew about councils shooting animals to euthanize them, Ms. Hancock said she didn't. If it was a practice, I would be concerned about it. If it was a cat or a dog, she said it before. Okay, let me restart that. If it was a practice, I would be concerned about it. If it was a cat or a dog, she said, before agreeing to answer questions on notice regarding the practice. A later answer said councils weren't required to tell the government how they killed animals under their care. Wait, a later answer said councils weren't required to tell the government how they killed animals under their care. The fuck? Are you saying that there's like some bigger time mishandling and there's some bigger time grievance and animal cruelty going on than just this one anecdote right here that's been going on for a while now? Somebody in Australia should be investigating this shit. Let's get Lonely Wolf to sniff them out and interrogate them as to what is going on. Ms. Ryan said, based on the minister's answers during the hearing, Ms. Hancock was clearly oblivious to the reality of the serious issues involving many NSW council pounds. Green's animal welfare spokeswoman Abigail Boyd said the government had undertaken no action since the issues had been raised with Ms. Hancock during the parliamentary hearing. While the Liberal national government twiddles its thumbs on animal welfare issues, more animals are being killed, she said. Council pounds are paid for by local communities, and it is clear that shooting lost and unclaimed dogs housed in these publicly funded facilities falls far short of community expectations. Excuse me. So, I don't know. I might be under the wrong assumption right here because I thought that it was originally like police shooting dogs. I don't know. I guess it's some other wing of. I don't know. I don't know. What is exactly the NSW? I'm a little bit confused right here. Maybe it's something that I should search up just for clarity's sake. Hold on a second here, folks. Is the NSW in... What is NSW in Australia? Or, oh, New South Wales, I think is what they're meaning. Oh, New South Wales Council. Shot dead by New South Wales Council due to COVID-19 restrictions. So, yeah. I guess it is possible that this is not directly by the police. I mean, obviously, it's not done by the politicians, not done by the council themselves, but it would have been done by some hired public sector goon of these councils to start shooting these dogs. Anyway, the OLG spokesman said the agency issued advice to all councils about operating pounds during the COVID-19 outbreak, including changing procedures to ensure those services continued while keeping staff and volunteers safe. But the punishment should not be to shoot dogs. Councils are also encouraged to continue to work with rehoming organizations and volunteers to care for animals, where that can be undertaken consistent with NSW health advice, the spokesman said. On July 30th, the agency said pounds and shelters could remain open to the public, and as people involved in animal welfare, their staff were authorized workers in locked down areas. Accordingly, prospective new owners should still be encouraged to adopt, not shop, consistent with NSW health advice, the OLG stated. Alright, so end of that article. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous, y'all. We have the public sector now shooting dogs as a way to enforce COVID restrictions, apparently. At least in Australia, anyways. Hopefully this does not come to America. Jeez. So, I have pre-read this article by the Washington Post, but I have not pre-read this article by Reuters talking also about how that the Australia Prime Minister and Australia government in general is considering ending its COVID lockdowns, supposedly. But, so, my implication is that the protests and, well, everything considering has finally got the attention of the Australia government to start wanting to go lax, supposedly anyways, on these restrictions or these lockdowns, to start lifting them up and whatnot. But when I got actually reading into this, at least into the Washington Post article, not the Reuters article, as we'll get to that later, but when I read into the Washington Post article, it's not as simple as the titles are saying. As Washington Post is all like, Groundhog Day has to end. Australia plots path beyond COVID-0 and lockdowns. So, I'll of course have all these articles linked down in the description box below for you all to read yourself if you'd like to. But basically, the Washington Post article goes explaining that in reality, it's very mixed. Very, very mixed. Like, the main people who are advocating for an end to the lockdowns is the Australia Prime Minister himself. Or, I think it's a dude anyways. Himself and the federal Australia government anyways. But the states and state governments are, or some of them anyways, at least half of them, are still trying to maintain their lockdowns. They are rather comfy, a little bit overly cozy with those lockdowns continuing. The other half are willing to roll along with the federal Australia government, but here's the thing. Even the federal Australia government and everybody who's all like, let's start lifting up these lockdowns, they are still being rather slow about them nonetheless, as they are all like, we are not going to, as the condition to be lifting these restrictions is to have like a 70 or 80% vaccination rate in their populations. And obviously not everybody is going to take these vaccinations over suspicions of the possibility of side effects or whatever. So what does that tell you? They're probably going to start taking away people's freedoms regardless. So anyway, or continue taking away people's freedoms. Let me put it that way. So anyway, reading the Reuters article, Australia Prime Minister says COVID Groundhog Day to end when more vaccinated. Sydney, August 23rd, Reuters. Australia must start to learn to live with COVID-19 when higher vaccination targets are reached. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said on Monday, despite concerns in some states about the impact of a surge in cases in Sydney. With over half of all Australians stuck in weeks-long lockdowns to curb the highly infectious Delta strain, Morrison said the country had to move forward and start reducing restrictions as more people became vaccinated. Lockdowns cannot go on forever. This is not a sustainable way to live in this country, he said during a televised media conference in Canberra. I'd say that it wasn't a sustainable way to live in the first place, even for the short term. But whatever, that's neither here nor there right now. This Groundhog Day has to end, and it will end when we start getting a 70% and 80% vaccination rates. Morrison spoke just as tighter restrictions that took effect in Australia's largest city, Sydney. As of Monday, masks are mandated outside the home except when exercising, and a nighttime curfew is in place in the 12 worst affected council areas. I don't even think even here in America we had curfews for our lockdown restrictions. I mean, there were curfews in the time of the Floyd riots. In some of the bigger cities, there were curfews dished out in response to the Floyd riots, but not necessarily in response to COVID-19. So it's worse. Australia is just objectively worse than we are here in the United States. I don't even think California, Michigan, and New York has been this stringent, quite honestly, although they get pretty close. The federal government last month unveiled a 4-stage plan to relax restrictions on once 70% of its 25 million people aged over 16 are vaccinated, with stringent lockdowns unlikely to be required. When vaccination coverage reaches 80%, only highly targeted lockdowns would be necessary, and inoculated Australians would be free to travel interstate. Differences have emerged between states that want to maintain a focus on suppressing the virus, and the largest state of New South Wales, which is seeking a path out of lockdowns through vaccinations following a large Delta outbreak. Excuse me, folks. Western Australia and Queensland states, which are largely coronavirus-free, have flagged they may still maintain some restrictions even when vaccination targets are reached. You see here, folks? You see? Basically what I said a little bit earlier. Some of the states are still a little bit too cozy with their lockdowns. So even if the federal government is pushing for all this, there's still reason to say some of these protests that they should probably still continue. Not necessarily in protest to the Australia federal government, but these different Australia state governments. They say the national plan, which was agreed before the NSW outbreak, was based on having only small outbreaks present in the community. On Monday, NSW reported 818 cases, most of them in Sydney, slightly down from the record 830 a day earlier. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, I think I'm pronouncing that right, urged people to focus less on cases and more on the immunization rollout. Why are they called Premier? I mean, where do you live in, like Soviet Russia or something? Oh, hey, Lonely Wolf, how's it going? Hi, honeys. Are you mean to say honeys or homies? Just wondering. Hey, by the way, Lonely Wolf, can you please do us a favor and sniff out all the people responsible for shooting these dogs in these Australia pet shelters? Sniffing out all the people responsible for this and chew their asses off for doing this psychotic bullshit. Because apparently you have some people, particularly in New South Wales, who are shooting dogs as a way to start enforcing their COVID restriction. JC Armitage says New York City comes close with its key to New York City BS, which is a vaccine passport where businesses become the state's unpaid enforcers. Well, fuck. Glad I don't live in New York City. Once you get to 80% double dose, every state will have to live with COVID. You cannot keep Delta out forever, she said. Zarky Colley in the live chat says, in Soviet Russia, all the dogs shoot you. Right, Zach? Or more like, well, actually, I cannot say that about Australia. Oi, in Australia, we shoot the dogs in response to enforce our COVID restrictions. Well, here in Soviet Russia, the dogs shoot you. In Victoria, home to Melbourne, 71 new cases were detected, with 55 having spent time in the community while infectious. Oh, boo-hoo. Let's keep the economy shut down and start infringing on people's free speech and right to protest and all that shit, right? Not worth it. Even from a utilitarian standpoint, that's not worth it. Which state premier Daniel Andrews said could derail plans to exit lockdown on September 2nd? Oh, God. See what I mean here, folks? See what I mean? The titles do not exactly line up with what the articles are saying. While Australia has managed the pandemic better than many other developed countries, and like took away their people's freedom most in other Western nations have, a slow vaccine rollout has taken the gloss off its early success. Nationally, 30% of people above 16 are fully vaccinated, while 52% have had at least one dose. Vaccinations are running at a record pace, but the target of 80% fully vaccinated will not be reached until December at the current rate. Australia has reported just over 44,600 cases in total. There have been 980 deaths, although the death rate has declined since last year. Separately, on Monday, South Australia said it would be the first state to trial home quarantine for people returning from other states, with an app used to track whether people are staying home. I don't know if any of y'all are looking at the screen right now, but I'm face palming right now. Mask off. Just mask off with this Orwellian fascism, right, Aussieland? Come on. Fuck out of here. Lonely Wolf 1980 in the chat says the vaccine rollout was a clusterfuck. Yup. Separately on... Wait, I already read that. If successful, the trial would be used for some returning international travelers to ease pressure on hotel quarantine. End of article. So yeah. Questionable as to what exactly is next for Australia. I'll try to my best to keep an eye out on what is happening with the government of Australia and present that in future episodes of Strike Force. And speaking of keeping track of information on Strike Force, the vaccines themselves. So I cannot remember where I came across this article right here, but the title says COVID-19 natural immunity compared to vaccine-induced immunity, the definitive summary. Excuse me. So I'm going to keep, like I said, I'm going to start keeping track of the vaccinations and whatnot, because there are like so many facets to research into as to whether or not the vaccines are actually effective and what exact side effects there are. I mean, the vaccines by themselves, they are effective against repelling like basic coronavirus, the very basic coronavirus, and even the Delta variant for that matter. But there are some information going about of course, the Lambda variant, for example, is being resilient against the vaccine, even though it is not as transmissible as Delta variant, or even the original coronavirus for that matter. But nonetheless, is worth of researching. And also, there is like one particular piece of information, one particular screenshot that is shared to me. Like, I got asking this person who shared me the screenshot over Facebook if they had like a source that I could read for this, because the theory seems possible, but I don't want to just cite a a meager screenshot from my source of information right here. But basically the theory goes that it's because of the vaccines that we are going to start having these abnormal mutations going on with coronavirus. And basically the vaccines themselves are causing the mutations that is just aggravating coronavirus. Again, it is resilient and effective against the basic coronavirus and even the Delta variant, but what happens after that, what happens for future cases, remains to be seen. So it is all worthy of research, and it's not information that I'm like fully informed or up to date about, and so that is why I'm saying in the future I'm going to try to slowly research about this and present the information as I read it. Present the information to you guys live here on this show as I come across it and read it. But for right now, there's this article that goes talking about how natural immunity is compared to vaccine-induced immunity. And I thought that I would just read it right here live on air rather than pre-reading it, just to give you guys the raw reaction so that we are going to, so that you get to know it live here on air. Zachary Colley says, what if you don't have the storage space for the app and you can't make room due to not being able to uninstall some default apps? I don't know, Zach. Maybe the government issues you a new phone. Who knows? You'd have to ask the Australia politicians. I do not know about that. But anyway, updated August 6th with CDC analysis of Kentucky. Unvaccinated Kentuckians had 2.34 times the odds of reinfection compared with fully vaccinated. And national analysis in Israel, vaccinated Israelis were 6.72 times more likely to get infected after the shot than after natural infection. More below. All right. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, became one of the latest high-profile figures to get sick with COVID-19, even though he's fully vaccinated. Interesting. In a statement Monday, Graham said it feels like he has the flu, but is certain he would be worse if he hadn't been vaccinated. Are you sure, Mr. Graham? Are you sure? While it's impossible to know whether that's the case, public health officials are grappling with the reality of an increasing number of fully vaccinated Americans coming down with COVID-19 infections, getting hospitalized, and even dying of COVID. The Centers for Disease Control insists vaccination is still the best course for every eligible American, but many are asking if they have better immunity after they're infected with the virus and recover than if they're vaccinated. Increasingly, the answer within the data appears to be yes. Why does CDC seem to be ignoring natural immunity? In fact, some medical experts have said they're confounded by public health officials' failure to factor natural and virus-acquired immunity into the COVID equation. Public and media narratives often press the necessity of vaccination for all, chiding states where vaccination rates are lowest, and they use vaccination rates and COVID case counts as inverse indicators of how safe it is in a particular state. High vaccination rate equals high safety. High case counts equals low safety, they claim. However, vaccination rates alone tell little about a population's true immune status and where high COVID case counts occur. It ultimately means a larger segment of that community ends up better protected, vaccines aside. That's according to virologists who point out that fighting off COVID, even without developing any symptoms, leaves people with what's thought to be more robust and longer-lasting immunity than the vaccines confer. All right, so get to that segment here in a bit. Zachary Colley in the chat says, wasn't there a New England study that Shane Killian covered on this subject? I don't know, Zach. I don't watch Shane Killian, mainly because Shane Killian is a little bit too arrogant and irritable for my taste, honestly. I mean, I have no doubt that the guy is a smart guy. Like, I enjoyed it when he gone debating against Liberal Sanity Project and other people when that brief time when Mr. Dapperton hosted debates on his YouTube channel. You know, one of them was about guns, one of them was about economic principle, and then the third one was about abortion. All three of them, I think, featured both Shane Killian and Liberal Sanity Project in their appropriate positions. JC Armitage says, I doubt he would ever cover anything that made the co-vax look bad. You doubt who would ever cover anything that made the co-vax look bad? What do you mean, JC? Just wondering. I mean, by he, are you referring to Shane Killian? Is Shane Killian like a pro-vaxxer himself? I don't know. Like, I'm sure that he's like pro-voluntary, at least, vax, at the very bare least. But is he pro-voluntary vax, or is he like pretty much neutral on whether or not you personally take the vax? I doubt he would ever cover anything that made the Kovacs look bad. J.C. Armitage says, Shane, I was replying to Zachary's comment. Whoa. Well, okay. I guess Shane Killian is pro-voluntary vax. I did not know that. I'm aware, JC. Shane Killian seems quick to people anti-vax. What? You might want to retype that, Zach. That last one did not really make sense. Paula Berlinski says at the time of its recall, Vioxx had been taken by 4 million Americans. The arthritis drug may have caused 140,000 heart attacks, resulting in 60,000 deaths. FDA investigator Graham. Interesting. The vaccine immunity problem. Hard data counters widespread public misinformation that claimed virtually all patients hospitalized and dying of COVID-19 are unvaccinated. Pfizer and Moderna had claimed their vaccines were 100% effective at preventing serious illness. Many in the media even popularized a propaganda phrase designed to push more people to get vaccinated. Pandemic of the unvaccinated. Not so, says CDC and other data. Recent CDC data found that 74% of those who tested positive for COVID-19 in a Massachusetts analysis had been fully vaccinated. Damn, y'all. Wow, that is like major truth bomb right there, folks. Did you hear that? Let me reread that for you. Recent CDC data found that 74% of those who tested positive for COVID-19 in a Massachusetts analysis had been fully vaccinated. Equally as troubling for those advocating vaccination for all, 4 out of 5 people hospitalized with COVID were fully vaccinated. And CDC said viral load, indicating how able the human host is to spread COVID-19, is about the same among the vaccinated and unvaccinated. Contrary to the infamous misinformation by the CDC director Rochelle Walensky last May, vaccinated people can and are spreading COVID. CDC officials later corrected Walensky's false claim. Well, this is hot right here, folks. This is hot. I hope you're all paying attention right now. If this is all true, well, then this would almost go to show that it is better to just let the younger among us, anyways, not older people. Let me be clear here, folks, that us younger people, it'd almost be better if we just let ourselves get sick than if we went along with this virus. The virus is not really helping very much. In fact, it's aggravating more than it is helping, if all this is true. Zachary Colley says, I meant to say he is quick to call people anti-vax. Paula Berlinski says the vaccine should be tested on politicians first. If they survive, the vaccine is safe. If they don't, then the country is safe. Monica Wisniewska, Zachary Colley says, I concur, Paula. Paula Berlinski says the vaccine should be tested, no. The vax will kill you within 2 years. There's nothing that will stop it. You will die from multiple organ failure. You know, I was almost tempted to feature this one article that goes basically saying what you just said there, Paula. Not to say that I heavily doubt that right there. Like, are there going to be some nasty side effects of people taking the vaccinations? I'd say that is probably likely enough. But saying that they will die, that seems to be like reaching too far as claims against the vaccines go. And what data is there to even show that people are definitely going to die? Like, and what rate are we talking about? Like 100% of the people who take the vaccine will die? Or are we talking just a higher rate, a higher percentage of people who take the vaccine as compared to other vaccines in the past will die? I mean, and again, what is the data to exactly prove that, or the science even to prove that? I mean, I know that there is like some of the cases of people having blood clots, but those are just anecdotes, really. And I'm not sure if I'm convinced that everybody is the same in their anatomy to be affected in the same exact way. Zachary Colley says 2 years, well, my family is screwed then. Going to suck being the only surviving member of it. Paula Berlinski says Dutch scientists are struggling to identify the exact cause of an epidemic of whooping cough that has swept through the country despite vaccination rates as high as 96%. British Medical Journal. Zachary Colley says if the prediction comes true. Well, I'm kind of skeptical of the prediction right here. Like, I'm interested in all the quotes that Paula has to say right here in my live chat, and all the data that she goes mentioning in the past about past vaccines of different diseases. But the prediction that just everybody who takes a COVID-19 vaccine is going to die is like, I press X to doubt. Like this is tangible right here. This right here that I have highlighted, this is tangible data right here. As far as people, most of the people who ended up testing positive happened to be people who were fully vaccinated in Massachusetts. This is tangible right here. But the assertion, the prediction that most people, if not all people who get vaccinated for COVID-19 are going to die, I have to press X to doubt. I have to press X to doubt as much as I press X to doubt on pretty much all New World Order takeover theories that people like to put a date onto for when exactly it happens. Paula Berlinski also says, lastly here, among school-age children, measles outbreaks have... wait, I already read that one, Paula. Why did you post it again? Anyway. Below, CDC's data with light blue showing fully vaccinated. Dark blue is unvaccinated, but may include some fully vaccinated. Figure 1, SARS-CoV-2 infections, number 469, associated with large public gatherings by date of specimen collection and vaccination status. Barnstable County, Massachusetts, July 2021. Now, I just want to say right here, but before I go, like, okay, wonder if I can, like, or I don't know, you guys can, like, see it on screen right there if you want to look at the screen yourself, but I just want to add as a little disclaimer right here. Me saying that I am doubting all these claims that everybody who gets vaccinated is going to die is not me advocating for the vaccine. Is not me even saying that the vaccine is completely 100% safe or whatever. That there is like going to be no side effects or whatever. Don't get it skewed here, people. I'm not outright advocating for vaccines. In fact, and I'm certainly not saying that I'm going to take the vaccine. In fact, with all the stuff here being shown, it seems to be that I am heavily leaning that I want to avoid taking a vaccine at all. But nonetheless, I just doubt that claim that everybody is going to die. Zachary Colley says, yeah, where'd you get the prediction, Pola? It sounds a bit outlandish, even by Clown World standards. Yep. So, as you can see, the multiple events and large public gatherings increasing COVID-19 cases reported to MADPH. Number of cases and so I guess this is like ever since the beginning of the lockdowns. These numbers at the bottom, I think, are the number of months since the beginning. from month 0 to 27. And throughout a good middle portion here from month 10 through 24, particularly 14 through 21, most of the cases of people getting infected is from people who are fully vaccinated as compared to the unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated or vaccination status unknown. Anyway. Hello, Cat Chat. Nice to see you in the live chat. There are side effects to the vaccine. They should fade away in a few days, though. I, in particular, got a sore arm, slight flu symptoms, and lightheadedness. Alright. Well, everybody, I just gotta say, even though that I pretty much doubt these predictions that everybody who takes the vaccine is going to die, I still say that if you're a Christian, please send out a prayer that little to nobody dies because purely just because they took the vaccine. As many of us have many loved ones who have already taken the vaccine. Yeah, my dad's side effects pretty minor, says Zach, recalling in the live chat. Right. CDC's newest findings on so-called breakthrough infections in vaccinated people are mirrored by other data releases. Illinois health officials recently announced more than 160 fully vaccinated people have died of COVID-19. Excuse me. Oh, pardon me, folks. And at least 644 have been hospitalized. So, that's obviously not... okay. They're saying of COVID-19, not of the vaccine. And keep in mind, that is not even near close to most people, or much less all people who got the vaccine died or even hospitalized. 10 deaths and 51 hospitalizations counted in the prior week. Israel's health ministry recently said effectiveness of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine has fallen to 40%. Last month, 100 vaccinated British sailors isolated on a ship at sea reportedly came down with COVID 7 weeks into their deployment. In July, New Jersey reported 49 fully vaccinated residents had died of COVID, 27 in Louisiana, 80 in Massachusetts. In Iceland, there is a spike in cases, mostly among the vaccinated. Among a highly vaccinated population that had previously claimed to have defeated COVID-19. Of 116 cases diagnosed in one day, 73 were among the vaccinated, 43 were unvaccinated. Nationally, as of July 12th, CDC said it was aware of more than 4,400 people who had... Okay. Nationally, as of July 12th, CDC said it was aware of more than 4,400 people who got COVID-19 after being fully vaccinated and had to be hospitalized, and 1,063 fully vaccinated people who died of COVID. But health officials still argue that vaccinated people make up only a small fraction of the seriously ill. Critics counter that CDC's recent Massachusetts data calls that into question. Update, August 6th. CDC has released a small analysis in Kentucky and indicated that it's proof that vaccines are more effective than natural immunity. Wait. Let me reread that. Update, August 6th. CDC has released a small analysis in Kentucky and indicated that it's proof that vaccines are more effective than natural immunity. Read the analysis here. According to CDC, among the reinfected sample, 20% had been fully vaccinated. Among those who had COVID and were not later reinfected, 66% were unvaccinated. Kentucky residents who were not vaccinated had 2.34 times the odds of reinfection compared with those who were fully vaccinated. So, it's seeming that it might be more mixed than anything else as far as whether or not natural immunity or vaccine-induced immunity are the best way to go about this. So, I don't know. I'm not going to make any concrete cases of what exactly has to be done here, folks, but it's still like a blow against the credibility and reliability of the vaccine. And might I also say that back on the subject of people dying from the vaccine, like I understand, I mean, there's a possibility that all the people who are making this claim are just making these hyperbolic claims so as to prevent as many people many people as possible from getting the vaccine because they have a feeling that the vaccine will just make things worse in general. They don't really think that everybody is going to die who takes the vaccine, but they think that everybody who takes the vaccine is just going to make things worse overall. So what's the best way to prevent people from taking any more of the vaccines? Tell them that they're all going to die if they take it. But I believe that fear-mongering, that type of fear-mongering, and yes, I'm going to use that quite blunt term, that type of fear-mongering is not the way to go about with preventing people and incentivizing people away from taking the vaccine. I mean, let's be real here, folks. Let's please not. Can both sides of the political aisle just stop it with the fear-mongering and be a little bit more measured with their coverage on this subject? Please. It's frustrating. I mean, I have railed heavily against the pro-lockdown and pro-vax people and COVID pessimistic people about that they're fear-mongering this the issue of coronavirus. But now it seems to be very recently that you have all the COVID optimistic or COVID skeptics, doing their own sort of fear-mongering at the same time. Probably not as much and certainly not as long as the COVID pessimists, but COVID skeptics are still kind of picking up in their fear-mongering game, and I hate it. I fucking hate it. Updated August 6th. In Israel, more than 7,700 new cases of the virus have been detected during the most recent wave starting in May. But just 72 of the confirmed cases were reported in people who were known to have been infected previously. That is less than 1% of the new cases. Roughly 40% of new cases, or more than 3,000 patients, involve people who had been infected despite being vaccinated. By contrast, Israelis who were vaccinated were 6.72 times more likely to get infected after the shot than after natural infection, with over 3,000 of the 5.1 million people, or 0.0578% of Israelis who were vaccinated getting infected in the latest wave. So you have Massachusetts, the fully vaccinated are getting sicker at higher rates than the unvaccinated. In Kentucky, it seems to be the opposite. It seems to be that the unvaccinated are getting sick at a higher rate than the fully vaccinated. But then in Israel, it seems to be at a slightly higher rate that the unvaccinated are getting sick at a lesser rate than the fully vaccinated. So again, mixed information here, folks, but take it all in. Do not just cherry pick one data group or the other data group. I am for informed, emphasis on informed consent on the vaccines. I'm certainly not for mandating the vaccines. Fuck that shit. Cat Chat says, I didn't know about the ingredients until after the second dose. Shows how much research I do. Lol. JC Armitage says, I know there's definitely some sus things going on with the Covax because State Tube removed SO and Heretics livestream where they talked about the Pfizer leaks that happened earlier this year. Interesting. If you ask for a download a link to said leaks in the Back Alley's Discord server, someone will likely give it to you. Well, I don't know how willing I'm able to or wanting to do that, JC, honestly. Because I'm like one of the lesser liked people in that community. I don't interact a lot in that server just in general at all. But I'm in no ways interested in trying to interact with SO or Filthy. I mean, I know that I have some back alley fans in my subscriber base, and good for them, but they're just not for me, honestly. Filthy and SO need to move to Odyssey. LBRY's Odyssey. You're in my server, aren't you, JC? I'm curious about the leaks. JC Armitage says, no, I'm afraid not, Zachary. I'll send you an invite when next time I'm on my laptop, says Zachary Colley. Zach says, okay, I need to be more coherent in the comments. Yeah, double check your typos, Zach. Come on. Cat Chat says, true, DarkCon. And Zachary Colley says, yeah, fear-mongering tends to have the opposite effect of what is desired. I know that's part of why I don't listen to most atheists and futurists. Mixed data. Sounds a bit inconclusive. What's going on? Why the differences in results across state lines? I don't know, Zach. I don't know. I'm just reading what is presented right here. And it seems to be me that Cheryl Atkinson is being very unbiased with what information she's presenting. So anybody who wants to say that this is some COVID denialist conspiracy theorist kook right here, you can just shove it. She objectively is not. She's being unbiased with the information she's presenting as far as the effectiveness of the vaccines go. The effectiveness versus ineffectiveness, The bright side of recovering from COVID-19. But there's promising news to be found within natural and acquired immunity statistics, according to virologists. As of May 29, CDC estimated more than 120 million Americans, more than 1 in 3, had already battled COVID, while an estimated 0.6% died. The other 99.4% of those infected survived with a presumed immune status that appears to be superior to that which comes with vaccination. Hear, hear. The true definition of herd immunity here, by the way, y'all. If doctors could routinely test to confirm who has fought off and become immune to COVID-19, it would eliminate the practical need or rationale for those protected millions to get vaccinated. It would also allow them to avoid even the slight risk of serious vaccine side effects. 7,700 new COVID cases in Israel. Vaccinated, nearly vaccinated, nor previously vaccinated or previously infected. All right. So that's a little pie chart to show specifically Israel. It would be nice if they had a pie chart or something of Kentucky. Wait. Whoa. In this case, I might have got my summation of Israel here a little bit wrong. I thought that it seems that I might have got it backwards here, folks. Among Israel's new COVID cases, it seems to be that most of them are actually from the non-vaccinated. But at the same time, the vaccinated is much higher than what the CDC and other official websites would want to have you believe as far as the effectiveness of vaccines go. Instead of it being like a 90% effectiveness rate, it's turned out to be like not very high, or not very high in the grand scheme of things. Unfortunately, virologists say no commonly used test can detect with certainty whether a person is immune. A common misconception is that antibody tests can make that determination, but experts say immunity after infection or exposure often comes without a person producing or maintaining measurable antibodies. Because of that reality, people who have had asymptomatic infections where they suffered no symptoms, have no easy way to know that they're immune. However, a growing body of evidence indicates that the millions who know they got COVID can be assured they're unlikely to suffer reinfection, or at least as long of a time period that scientists have been able to measure, possibly far beyond. Excuse me. The immunity after COVID infection studies. The following are some of the data and studies regarding immunity acquired after COVID infection. Longitudinal analyses shows durable and broad immune memory after SARS-CoV-2 infection with the persisting antibody responses and memory B and T cells, July 2021. This study followed 254 COVID-19 patients for up to 8 months and concluded they had durable, broad-based immune responses. In fact, even very mild COVID-19 infection also protected the patients from an earlier version of SARS coronavirus that first emerged around 2003 and against COVID-19 variants. Taken together, these results suggest that broad and effective immunity may persist long-term in recovered COVID-19 patients, concludes the study scientists. Associations of vaccination and of prior infection with positive PCR test results for SARS-CoV-2 in airline passengers arriving in Qatar. June 9th, 2021. This study of airline passengers in Qatar found that both vaccination and prior infection were imperfect when it comes to preventing positive COVID-19 test results, but that the incidence of reinfection is similarly low in both groups. Sorry, poked out for a sec. Something came into my feed. I just had to post my views on, says Cat Chat. Alright. Fair enough. Alright. Necessity of COVID-19 vaccination in previously infected individuals. June 1st, 2021. This study followed 52,238 employees of the Cleveland Clinic Health System in Ohio. For previously infected people, the cumulative incidence of reinfection remained almost zero, according to the study. Not one of the 1,359 previously infected subjects who remained unvaccinated had a COVID-19 infection over the duration of the study, and vaccination did not reduce the risk. Individuals who have had COVID-19 infection are unlikely to benefit from COVID-19 vaccination, concludes the study scientists. So, remember that right there, folks. If you get into an argument with somebody about whether or not that you should get a COVID-19 vaccine and you know that you have already been previously infected, possibility that I myself might have been previously infected myself. I definitely know that I got previously exposed to it at some earlier part this year, but about a week later I did not test positive, and then another week after that I did not get any symptoms at all. But nonetheless, if you know that you had got infected with COVID-19, you can use that as a wedge, as a justification to say why that you should not or don't really need to get vaccinated at all, because it serves you no benefit. And so therefore, why take the risks of putting fluid, this unknown and mysterious fluid, into your system, that being the vaccine? And by the way, if y'all are liking the commentary so far of this episode of Strike Force, please don't forget to hit that like button down below, as it'll help in the algorithm, especially to fight back that COVID-19 flag that I have underneath this live stream right now. Please and thank you. SARS-CoV-2 specific memory B cells from individuals with diverse disease severities recognize SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern. May 29, 2021. This study found strong immune signs in people who had previously been infected with COVID-19, including those who experienced asymptomatic or mild disease. The study concludes there is reason for optimism regarding the capacity of prior infection to limit disease severity and transmission of variants of concern as they continue to arise and circulate. A population-based analysis of the longevity of SARS-CoV-2 antibody seropositivity in the United States, May 24, 2021. This study of real-world data extended the time frame of available data, indicating that patients have strong immune indicators for almost a year post-natural infection of COVID-19. The study concludes the immune response after natural infection may persist for longer than previously thought, thereby providing evidence of sustainability that may influence post-pandemic planning. SARS-CoV-2 infection induces long-lived bone marrow plasma cells in humans, May 24, 2021. This study examined bone marrow of previously infected patients and found that even mild infection with COVID-19 induces robust antigen-specific long-lived humoral immune memory in humans. The study indicates people who have had mild illness develop antibody-producing cells that can last a lifetime. People who have had mild illness develop antibody-producing cells that can last a lifetime. World Health Organization Scientific Brief, May 10, 2021. Alright, so the WHO, one of the academic and most sophisticated sources to go for, right, COVID pessimists? This scientific brief issued by WHO states that after natural infection with COVID-19, available scientific data suggests that in most people, immune responses remain robust and protective against reinfection for at least 6 to 8 months. Detection of SARS-CoV-2 specific humoral and cellular immunity in COVID-19 convalescent individuals, May 3rd, 2021. This study found humoral and cellular immunity in recovered COVID patients. Production of SRBD specific antibodies were readily detected in recovered patients. Moreover, we observed virus neutralization activities in these recovered patients, wrote the study authors. The adaptive immune system consists of three major lymphocyte types: B cells, antibody-producing cells, CD4 T cells, helper T cells, and CD8 T cells, cytotoxic or killer T cells. Firm antigen-specific adaptive immunity to SARS-CoV-2 in acute COVID-19 and associations with age and disease severity. All right. So, all right, I know that me reading this article word for word is kind of tedious here, folks, and it might even borderline on plagiarism right now, because you guys are just listening to this live stream, and the audio that I'm providing you is my own content, and what I'm helping to do to help provide that said verbal content is just by reading other people's work. But all the same, I'm reading to you so that I, piece by piece, don't forget anything that I would like presented to you. Like, I could pre-read this article to you all and basically give you a basic gist summation of this article, but unfortunately, I don't remember exactly everything that I want to present to you all every single time. Heck, I was kind of struggling to remember everything that I wanted to talk about in regards of the Australia protests against the, Australia lockdowns. I mean, that was bad enough, but this is like more important information and more pertinent information as to determining what we should do in this battle against the COVID pessimists and all the pro-vaxxers, especially if they want to use whatever data as a wedge to say we need vaccine mandates. So that is why that I am reading word for word here. But like I put the disclaimer at the beginning of this live stream, no copyright infringement was intended in the making of this live stream. Sorry. Zachary Colley in the live chat says, Florida man and his gator reach California and are perplexed at the questions about his lack of vaccination when he already got immune naturally. I don't get it either, his alligator said. Right? That'd be the most Chad-like Florida man story of all time if I ever heard one like that, Zach. All right. So protection of serious typo or being dyslexic. Protection of previous SARS-CoV-2 infection is similar to that of BNT162b2 vaccine protection. A 3-month nationwide experience from Israel, April 24, 2021. This study from Israel found a slight advantage to natural infection. This study from Israel found a slight advantage to natural infection over vaccination when it comes to preventing a reinfection and severe illness from COVID-19. The study authors concluded, our results question the need to vaccinate previously infected individuals. So obviously the writer of this article is just giving her own basic summations of all the different studies that she is linking right here, like pulling key quotes in them and whatnot. But yeah, she's just giving the basic gist is what she is. If you guys want to dive balls deep into all this research yourself to know the specifics, then by all means, this article is linked down in the description box below, and you can visit it and click on each one of the links that she provides as well. Vaccinated previously infected individuals. A 1 to 1,000 SARS-CoV-2 reinfection proportion in members of a large healthcare provider in Israel, a preliminary report, March 6, 2021. This study found a rare COVID-19 positive test reinfection rate of 1 per 1,000 recoveries. Lasting immunity found after recovery from COVID-19, January 26, 2021. Research funded by the National Institutes of Health and published in Science early in the COVID-19 vaccine effort found the immune systems of more than 95% of people who recovered from COVID-19 had durable memories of the virus up to 8 months after infection, and hoped that the vaccines would produce similar immunity. However, experts say they do not appear to be doing so. So, this is from the NIH right here. NIH is considered to be one of those sophisticated academic sources by the COVID lockdown advocates and COVID pessimists, so forth. And they are even they have no choice but to present the data that goes showing that natural infection, natural immunity is turning out to be a plus. SARS-CoV-2 reinfection in a cohort of 43,000 antibody positive individuals followed for up to 35 weeks, January 15, 2021. This study found COVID-19 natural infection appears to elicit strong protection against reinfection for at least 7 months. Reinfection is rare, concludes the scientists. Immunological memory to SARS-CoV-2 assessed for up to 8 months after infection. November 1st, 2020. November 1st, 2020. This study confirmed and examined immune memory in previously infected COVID-19 patients. Negligible impact of SARS-CoV-2 variants on CD4 and CD8 T cell reactivity in COVID-19 exposed donors and vaccinees. November 1st, 2020. This study concluded T cell immune response in former COVID-19 patients likely continues to protect amid COVID-19 variants. Orthogonal SARS-CoV-2 serological assays enable surveillance of low prevalence communities and reveal durable humoral immunity. October 13, 2020. This study found that neutralizing antibodies are stable, produced for at least 5 to 7 months after a patient is infected with COVID-19. SARS-CoV-2 specific T cell immunity in cases of COVID-19 and SARS and uninfected controls. July 25, 2020. This study found that all patients who recently recovered from COVID-19 produced immunity-strong T cells that recognize multiple parts of COVID-19. They also looked at blood samples from 23 people who'd survived a 2003 outbreak of a coronavirus, SARS-CoV-1. These people still had lasting memory T cells 17 years after the outbreak. Those memory T cells acquired in response to SARS-CoV-1 also recognized parts of COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. Much of the study on the immune response to SARS-CoV-2, the novel coronavirus that causes COVID-19, has focused on the production of antibodies. But in fact, immune cells, known as memory T cells, also play an important role in the ability of our immune systems to protect us against many viral infections, including, it now appears, COVID-19. End of article. As I always say when I go finishing off these articles. So, after knowing all this bit of information, I just got one question. People want to, start, what's the word I'm looking for? Implementing vaccine passports. Well, how about this? How about previous infection passports? Can we have those as well? At least, I mean, if we're going to start doing these passports and we're going to be doing vaccine passports, can we have previous infection and natural immunity passports at the same time? That'd be kind of cool. Just a little bit. I mean, just from a utilitarian standpoint, so as to avoid wasting the vaccines on people who might ultimately not need them, first of all, and secondly, avoid any possible side effects that they might get and not need risk because, well, they have the natural immunity already as it is. And hey, look here, Dr. Weir, here's my proof that I have my natural immunity. My natural immunity passport right there for you to see and read for yourself. Anyway, Zachary Colley in the chat says, Corona Chan, aw, why can't I get back in? Patient 1, I don't know, you left the keys inside. Okay. So, one second here, folks. Oh, It's just trending on Twitter right now. Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts dies at age 80. So that's what my Facebook group I grew up listening to classic rock was referring to when they said rest in peace Charlie. They were talking about Charlie Watts, drummer of the Rolling Stones. FYI, I don't know hardly any member names of Rolling Stones. But anyway, so on to the next and final subject of the day. It's been almost 1.5 hours for this live stream, but I think I'm going to go ahead and push it for a little bit more so as to just get this out of the way. As this is a subject that has just newly popped across my feed, more specifically on Twitter, and then I shared the screen cap or the picture on Facebook as well. As you can see, I have actually shared Mikhail the Stray Cat's picture that he shared on Twitter originally that says, breastfeeding isn't natural and it makes moms anti-vaxxers. So apparently, whenever that a baby sucks on your teat, apparently with their saliva, they're basically giving you all these brainwashing chemicals that just forcefully causes you to become of the mindset of an anti-vaxxer. We have reached into fucking clown world, people. So the description here says, in one of medicine's more extraordinary statements, the American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, is telling health professionals to stop describing breastfeeding as natural. It could lead parents down the path of alternative medicine, homeschooling, and becoming anti-vaccination. Excuse me. So, the fact alone that they say breastfeeding isn't natural, that's enough of a red flag in my brain. But the very moment that they start saying that it'll cause you to become a pro-homeschooling type person and become anti-vax and acting like that, being of the homeschooling mindset or having a homeschooling background like I myself, I have been homeschooled all my childhood and my teenage years under my mom. So, and acting like that homeschooling is inherently bad or something like that, that is the very second of where that my mind just screamed that this is just purely agenda-driven bullshit, y'all. Like, where's the science in this? Breastfeeding is gonna cause you to be of a different mindset? Does anybody even know of how many public schooling moms that we still have in this country? Homeschoolers make up a super minority of the population here in this country. But breastfeeding is the super majority of moms who feed their kids when they're newly born. So it does not corroborate. It does not, what's the word I'm looking for? It does not correlate. This doesn't make any sense. I don't fucking care if this is from some academic source or whatever the fuck. Just on the surface, this is just fucking kooky right here. And my first impression, like, if I really wanted to go raw dog against this bullshit right here, I'd go ahead and say that this is the government now trying to push for possibly to start, taking steps towards saying that homeschooling, being pro-homeschooling, homeschooling your kids, or being homeschooled in the past is a sign of mental illness. That they're going to start calling homeschooling a mental illness of some sorts. I would go ahead and say that, except, here's the thing. I do not know of how much that this dogma is catching on. Why? Because the article that was linked to me when I gone sharing this, so this person named Panda gone sharing me an article talking about this. And by the way, I hope my live stream doesn't get taken down because it's showing a baby that is sucking on a tit right there. But nonetheless, the article, as you can see, it is April 8th, 2016. So quite an old article, and it even has it highlighted right here. This article is more than 5 years old. So questionable as to whether or not that this is actually catching on, how much it's actually catching on here in the modern world. But I still think it's outragingly enough worthy of responding to this bullshit right here. So, the last 5 live chats here from Zachary Colley and Cat Chat. Zach says, oh good grief, how does breastfeeding have to do with vaccinations? Breasts and breast milk are natural. How do you think breasts form? Cat Chat says, lol, what the heck? Who wrote this? Says a woman with breasts. Compared to schools now willing to hire pedophiles, me thinks homeschooling is the best alternative. Ooh, ouch. Is that really a case? Is that really the case, Cat Chat? I mean, I'm not going to completely rule it out, Cat Chat. I'm not going to brush you off as much as the other person a little bit further up that said that anybody who takes a COVID-19 vaccine is going to die. I'm not going to brush you off as much as that other person, Cat. But nonetheless, can you please find the source for that claim and link it somewhere in my Discord server? Thank you very much. And Zachary Colley says what Cat said. I would like to know exactly how much this is happening, of how much that public schools are actually hiring child predators to do the teaching. So anyway, let's get on with this response bait right here. So very quickly scroll up. Yes, we're mammals, but is it wise these days to promote breastfeeding as natural? Now scrolling down so I don't have to get that boob in the picture for too much longer. Now, thankfully there was no nipple or areola shown, but nonetheless I don't know, I might have to download this live stream after I go off air just to be safe. But anyway, hippos do it, so do orangutans. There is no question that for us mammals, nursing is one of those defining behaviors in nature. The question is whether public health officials in promoting breastfeeding among human mothers should deploy the term natural. Yes. Yes. Yes, just Chad, yes. In comparison to formula, it is pretty fucking natural. 2 academics pondering these and other linguistically charged questions sparked an online frenzy recently with a paper on the unintended consequences of promoting breastfeeding as a natural practice and relating it to the anti-vaccine movement. Yeah, because everybody knows that the super majority of breastfeeding moms, they naturally just become a bunch of anti-vaxxers. Fuck off with this shit. Unless you have the stats to present here, lady, that the super majority or even the bare majority of breastfeeding moms become anti-vaxxers or are currently of an anti-vaxxing worldview, fuck out of here. Fuck out of here with that claim. I'm just going to say, citation needed. University of Pennsylvania ethicist Anne Barnhill and medical historian Jessica Martucci, writing last month in the journal Pediatrics, suggest that by using the word natural in campaigns endorsing breastfeeding, public health officials and medical professionals may be inadvertently fueling other groups that reject public health efforts like anti-vaxxers. What the fuck? Reject public health efforts? What the fuck is so anti-public health about breastfeeding? What? Before I'm done reading this article, I am going to end up going full on war corpse here, y'all. This is starting to piss me off. We are concerned about breastfeeding promotion that praises breastfeeding as a natural way to feed infants. Barnhill and Martucci write, this messaging plays into a powerful perspective that natural approaches to health are better. How do I even? I mean, what's your citation to say otherwise? That natural approaches to health are better than, man-made and artificial ways. I mean, who knows? All these breastfeeding moms, they might realize that diseases and vaccinations might be the exception. I mean, was there any natural way of handling the bubonic plague or even the Spanish flu, for example? Are the supermajority of moms saying that, we just gotta naturally ride out the Black Plague and the fucking Spanish flu instead of taking any man-made or artificial means to try and counteract against it. Freaking clown world this is right here. I mean, diseases like that are more obvious than whatever type of issue I believe that you're going to bring up here. I mean, this doesn't necessarily correlate. Tell us how this correlates. What is the anti-public health thing about breastfeeding? Promoting breastfeeding as natural may be ethically problematic and even fuck you, maybe ethically problematic. I mean, just because you say that breastfeeding is natural does not mean that you think that getting sick of the measles or smallpox or whatever is natural. Those don't inherently correlate with one another. You can say that one is natural without saying that the other at the same time is natural. These aren't exclusive. And even more troublingly, it may bolster this belief that natural approaches are presumptively healthier. This may ultimately challenge public health's aims in other contexts, particularly childhood vaccination. Alright, I'm just going to say that I'm not seeing anything as of yet that is talking about homeschooling yet, but still, this is like making some bullshit crackpot logic here. That's just frustrating me. I'm just wondering to myself, how the fuck are you coming up with this? Like, I feel like that I have some homeless person that is just getting all up in my fucking face saying of how that I need to, like, hold his belief and trying to shove his belief down my throat, and I'm just so like, get the fuck out of here, asshole. I'm not interested. Not only are you being a rather, I don't know, subversive dipshit, but you're also being an idiot at the same time. An illogical idiot. They go on to connect the dots between the idea of natural as pure and good and harmless, compared to synthetic, mass-produced technology which arouses suspicion and distrust, whether the topic is vaccines, organic versus conventionally grown foods, or fluoride in drinking water. Oh my gosh. Oh good lord, this hurts my brain. What do I even say in response to that? How do I even start? A mother can say that breastfeeding is natural. I mean, a mother can say that breastfeeding is natural whilst at the same time being accepting of fluoride in drinking water. Like, I'm not saying that it's a good idea to start advocating for fluoride in drinking water here, folks. Don't get it misconstrued. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not even going to say that it's a good idea to be advocating for, I don't know, GMOs or vaccines against any disease, not just coronavirus. But you can say that these are natural whilst at the same time still advocate for these synthetic alternatives to the natural alternative of handling these different subjects. Citing the measles outbreak of 2014 through 15 and subsequent discussions about parents who did not have their kids vaccinated, Barnhill and Martucci write, some in the anti-vaccine camp believe that vaccines cause autism or contain harmful levels of toxins and impurities. Beneath the concern of many Americans over vaccine safety, a specific and not necessarily illogical fuck you, this is completely illogical. And not necessarily illogical worldview is discernible. A rejection of the manufactured, the synthetic, and the unnatural, and an embrace of the natural as healthier and intrinsically better. Vaccines are often seen as unnatural, and boosting immunity naturally is viewed by some as the healthier and better approach. Sure, of course, but how high of a percentage is that? I mean, how is it that these mothers are becoming of the mindset that we need to like just ride out the measles instead of getting vaccinated for it? How many of these mothers are getting influenced into that belief because they go hearing that, oh, that breastfeeding is natural? It's like this person just wants us to stop calling natural things natural. This is completely anti-science right here. Instead of like taking everything with a sledgehammer and, paint everything with a broad brush, you should be taking these issues with the scalpel and one by one. Like, hey, measles. What do we do here? Do we take the natural course, or do we take the synthetic course of trying to fight this out? Is it natural to get measles, or I don't know. I don't know how to frame this exactly, but nonetheless, take it on a case-by-case basis. Measles. What is a better way to handle measles infection? Get the vaccine, or to just ride it out naturally? I'll take it vaccinated. Babies getting fed. What is better? Artificial formula or natural mom's milk? Yeah, the natural mom's milk. That is the better way. In that case, fuck. Why not take it case by case instead of just... Never mind, I'm not going to repeat myself. Not surprisingly, linking breastfeeding, vaccines, and natural approaches to parenting in a single paper is bound to unleash a backlash. You think? The topics tend to be polarizing on their own and often trigger an extreme emotional response. Damn right I'm emotional. You're just being unnatural. You're just being unnecessarily subversive right here in your speak here. I just go wondering, like, what's next in your anti-science position? I'm no scientist myself. And even I know that there are better ways to handle scientific issues than just paint things with a broad brush or handle issues of science with a broad brush. Oh, we should never at all consider anything to be natural. No. As opposed to, that's natural, that's a better way to do it. That's unnatural, but that is the way we should handle that issue. That's natural, let's go with that. This is unnatural, but I think that's how that we have to do it, and so on and so forth. See Adele on breastfeeding. Oh, Adele, like the pop singer? See Adele on breastfeeding. All those people who put pressure on us, you can go fuck yourselves, alright? And this paper is no exception. Not gonna... Adele is sick of people who pressure new moms. Wait, what? Adele is sick of people who pressure new moms to breastfeed. Oh. So Adele is anti-breastfeeding? What the fuck? I don't know. I mean, with respect to the lady, I'm not going to start bashing everybody, every single mom, that they should definitely breastfeed their kids. I mean, I would think, at least I would presume anyways, at first, that it'd be the better way of doing it than just feeding your baby formula. But nonetheless... Anyway, I am like way behind in the live chat. I'm just going to take a break here. Zachary Colley says, if they're willing to push LGBT onto kids, I even saw gay flags at an elementary school in Beech Grove while installing dry erase boards. It's not that big a stretch due to kids' inability to understand sex. Okay. No one in the chat. Hello, no one. He says, I don't care what the academic degree or accomplishment the person who wrote this article has. When they say that breastfeeding is not natural, that is stupid. Yes. JC Armitage, these academics are just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks at this point. Precisely. They're wanting to be known for something. And even if it's like they get written down in the history books for making some advancement in science, air quotes, and trying to say that breastfeeding is not natural. Shit. Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewer... Blah, 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 blah. Tell me, are you all still able to hear me right now? Am I still coming in smoothly? Because I'm getting an error message right here on my YouTube streaming browser. Like, tell me. Tell me, am I still coming in smoothly? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. Cat Chat says yes. Alright. Thank you, Cat. I don't know what's going on and why I'm getting that message, but if I'm still in all practicality coming in through smoothly, let's continue on. JC Amatai says, these air quotes academics are just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Oh, I already read that one. Zachary Colley says, thanks, no one. Way to break the flow of my 2 comments by commenting in between them. Hey, calm down. It's okay, Zach. Cat Chat says, it's extremely clear child grooming. I want to breastfeed my children someday after getting kids in the first place. I'm sure you'd make a wonderful mother, Cat. Zachary Colley says, man, I plan on adopting a kid whenever I get the chance from an adoption center. Problem is, I do not know of any marriageable singles, nor do I have the finances. Alright. And, of course, men can't breastfeed. As a generality, LGBT activists do not get on my ass for that claim. I consider you a viable candidate, Zachary Colley, but we're on different continents, unfortunately, says Cat Chat. Oh, do we have some flirting going on in my live chat here? No one says this is what happens when you have people with too much time on their hands. Precisely. Zachary Colley says, sad but true, but I'm just not ready. Cat Chat says, I thought you were, Zach. Zachary says, nope, again, financial trouble. Cat Chat says, I got chicken pox when I was a kid. I caught it around the time my class would have taken sex ed. Okay. JC Owen says, yeah, we can hear you. You're coming in smoothly, says Zach. No one says loud and clear. All right, cool. 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 Thank you all. So, ignoring that message and getting on with the article. So I'm caught up with live chat. The American Academy of Pediatrics section on breastfeeding leadership commented on the paper published in the group's own journal. While we agree that the words we choose to encourage healthy behaviors certainly matter, equating breastfeeding as natural with the supposed natural of the anti-vaccine movement is... Whoa, let me reread this. The American Academy of Pediatrics. Wait, is that the same organization as this? American Academy of Pediatrics. Okay. So this is the same group that we have read of right here, from here, where they're all like, breastfeeding is not natural and it's wrong to say so because homeschooling bad and anti-vax movement bad. While we agree that the words we choose to encourage healthy behaviors certainly matter, equating breastfeeding as natural with the supposed natural of the anti-vaccine movement is neither logical nor appropriate. Wait, AAP is sounding logical right here, whereas in this one, they were not sounding logical. Like, what the fuck gives here? Do we have a big ol' flip-flop from AAP? Breastfeeding is the normative standard for infant feeding and the standard by which all other feeding methods should be compared. Infant formulas are inferior to this standard as documented in multiple evidence-based studies. Just as the authors are concerned about a theoretical effect of breastfeeding promotion on vaccine... let me read that section right there. Just as the authors are concerned about a theoretical effect of breastfeeding promotion on vaccine rates, we are concerned about the effect of their article and other similar articles on breastfeeding promotion and rates. Okay, so kind of shat the bed on the later portion right there. Why would you be concerned about vaccine rates just because you go promoting breastfeeding as natural? Just because you go calling a spade a spade? Can't we all just agree to call a spade a spade? In other words, call natural breastfeeding natural? Come on, folks. Get it real. Get it together here. Come on. After Slate covered the paper, more than 650 commenters weighed in, many particularly snarky. So what should we call an infant mammal suckling at its mother's teat? Inconvenient? Righto. What a Chad here. This commenter that they're quoting. The Orwellian march continues apace. Almost is just one example. Again, I want to emphasize again that this is back in 2016 right here, folks. But again, still worth reading. The authors said they even got a death threat on Twitter. Okay. Look, no death threats. I mean, let me just make it absolutely clear on this live stream. Even though that I am reaming against all these crackpot organizations that are all like, breastfeeding is not natural, or we should not be calling breastfeeding natural. Even though I'm saying they're fucking stupid, I do not condone any death threats. In fact, I condemn death threats at them. Do not go killing these people just because of this stupid ass reason. I spoke with Barnhill and Martucci, who said some readers may have misinterpreted their piece as a critique of breastfeeding and its promotion, which was not their intention. Ours is just a critique of the use of the word natural by public health and medical authorities to promote breastfeeding, Barnhill said. So supposedly they're not being anti-breastfeeding. But at the same time, they don't want breastfeeding to be called natural. And before anybody goes saying that I'm going on about a non-issue here, this needs to be tackled right fucking now. Before it gets off the hook and is just, allowed to develop into something else. I mean, here in 2021 or 2016 when this article is released, I guess, we start calling breastfeeding not natural. Who knows? Maybe 20 years from now, we start banning breastfeeding because of this, air quotes, logic right here. Before you know it, folks, before you know it. So that is why that I'm here today. And the bottom line really is that words matter. Damn right words matter, so let's separate the natural and the unnatural from each other. Just call a spade and just separate the condonable and the condemnable. Given that this rhetoric is part of the anti-vaccine movement, for example, what the fuck? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. They're unironically pandering to the Hitler or the Nazis drank water argument. Like, everybody knows what I'm talking about here, right? When I say the Nazis drank water argument, right? You'd hear leftists who would go on about, right-wingers, you are like for immigration control. Guess what? The Nazis were for immigration control as well. So that means that you are pretty much a Nazi. And then right-wingers would say in response, well, they also drank water. So why does it matter? And by the way, also, Hitler loved dogs, and Hitler was a vegan as well. Should that mean that we start calling dog lovers and vegans Nazis? No, of course not. And this person in this quote right here is saying that because there is this one similarity between anti-vaccine people and calling breastfeeding natural, that therefore we should just completely abandon it, completely scrap it. Fuck out of here. We cannot tell the truth, apparently, because saying the truth is too much in relation to these bad or questionable organizations. Zachary Cawley says John Tron's what meme would be perfect about now. You know what? Exactly, Zach. Exactly. In fact, I need to sometime arrange myself a soundboard for this program. And one of those sound clips would be John Tron's what? What the fuck? Among many other sound bites as well. I'm going to have to do that sometime. It seems reasonable to suggest that we ought to choose our words carefully, Martucci said, and avoid ideologically charged language that could inadvertently stir up this broader cultural and political movement. Fuck out of here. Why does it have to be ideological? I mean, sure. Because the anti-vax movement, they go saying, oh, it's natural alternatives to vaccines are better. I mean, they are using that in an ideological manner, of course. But that doesn't mean that we should refrain from calling a spade, and us calling just a spade would be non-ideological at that point. Just saying that breastfeeding is natural. There's no ideology attached when I say that breastfeeding is natural. What comment are you talking about? Cat asks JC Armitage. Cat Chat said, oh, Catchat says, did YouTube block my comment about what I was referring to? I'll screenshot and send it to you. Alright, I'll look at it after this live stream, Cat. Thanks. JC Armstrong says, what comment are you talking about, Cat? Catchat says, I posted a screenshot of it in the YouTube Sucks channel on DarkCon server. Secretary says, wouldn't it be hilarious if we told them Hitler breathed oxygen and Antifa held their breaths? Oh, jeez, that is so bad, Zach. That is so bad. But kind of funny at the same time. JC Armitage says, at Catchat, yeah, I don't think StateTube likes it when people say the prawn word. Right? Anyway. Here, edited, is more of our conversation. Martucci, the bottom line is that natural has a lot of connotation, evokes a lot of things. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And some of those things are things public health officials and medical professionals that should not evoke. The anti-vaccination movement, we use that as an example. It's clearly a case in which the same kind of language and terminology of the natural is used to do something anti-public health. So what? You're being overly political with this. Stop getting concerned with the politics and just call it natural. Get off it. Get the stick out of your ass, for crying out loud. The same language you use to promote breastfeeding is being used by anti-vaxxers against public health. Literally the Nazis drank water argument right there, folks. Our goal was to convince medical and public health authorities to think more carefully about the kind of language they use. And I say, fuck it. Fuck that shit. So, Rachel's, okay, this is, Rachel Zimmerman said, to be perfectly clear, what is the main message of your paper? That was what Martucci was responding to right there. So, Rachel Zimmerman says again, many of the comments on your piece reflect the idea that breastfeeding really is about as natural as you can get, and they oppose a ban on the word natural when it relates to something, well, natural. What do you think? Martucci says, scholars have been theorizing the natural for decades, demonstrating how what we consider natural is not a fixed category. It changes over time and place. What's changed about breastfeeding to make it not natural then in that case? Tell me. This discussion, however, has not moved very far beyond the walls of the ivory tower, and so many people fuck out of here. Stones and glass houses, person. You're the one in the ivory tower here. Speaking from your ivory tower about how we should stop using the word natural to refer to breastfeeding. And so many people believe there is something immovable, universal, and timeless about nature that allows us to use it as a reference point. When people talk about breastfeeding as natural, they often believe they are referring to this very clear and very obvious thing. Wait. Let me reread that. When people talk about breastfeeding as natural, they often believe they are referring to this very clear and very obvious thing. When in reality, breastfeeding is today and always has been a cultural practice. Cultural? I don't even know how to respond to that. I mean, maybe it's not inherently a bad thing to call it a cultural practice. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if it really is a cultural practice, well then by that logic, that means that all animals have a bit of a culture to them. They have a cultural practice in that they go breastfeeding their young. Well, all mammal animals, to be more specific, not reptiles or birds or anything like that. It's not simply a matter of human instinct and biology. Women have to be taught how to breastfeed. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Breastfeeding as a process looks different in different societies across time and place. That does not change the naturality of it. The natural producing of the milk inside of the woman's boob for them to produce for their young, for their babies. What's natural about it is the milk and how it's naturally produced within the mom's body. how a woman like holds their baby, how they like I don't know, where they place their baby for the breastfeeding process. That's a little bit of a different subject, but that does not change of how that breastfeeding as a generality, as a whole general practice, is natural. And sure, yeah, women have to be taught how to breastfeed. I mean, the same thing goes with lions. Lions have to teach their young how to hunt. And there's so many other animal species I bet we could mention. And yet nobody is going to stop and say, oh no, yeah, lions hunting for gazelle, that's not natural. Or we should avoid calling that natural or whatever. God, this is ridiculous. I mean, it seems to me that these people right here are conflating the word natural with ethical inherently. I mean, would we call a lion hunting a gazelle ethical? I mean, I personally would call it ethical. Well, I don't know. I confine ethics mostly to the human species, so I do not even know if I would technically call the word ethical. Apply the word ethical in regards of a lion hunting a gazelle. But you know what else is hey, Benjamin Schultz in the live chat. By the way, if anybody doesn't know, anybody who what am I trying to say here? Anybody who hasn't seen my 700 subscriber celebratory live stream, Ben Schultz here is my uncle, by the way. Cat Chats is in the chat. Dad just listened in and he disapproves of your sailor talk. I'm sorry. It's the way that I naturally flow. My show is not for everybody, Cat. I'm probably lucky enough to have you listening in on this, but I'm sorry, but this is just freaking frustrating right here. This stupid ass bullcrap right here being presented in this article. I mean, what am I trying to say? What I was trying to say a little bit earlier is I think the writers of this article are conflating the word natural with the word ethical. Just because something is natural does not always mean that it is ethical to do. Like, is it natural for a man to want to kill another man if that man was cheating on their wife or whatever? Maybe a person could say, in a way, it is natural, but is it ethical? Fuck no. Of course not. So, let's stop it with the conflation here of natural and ethical with one another. Just because that a person might say that there are, air quotes, natural alternatives to vaccinating your children against measles or smallpox or whatever, does not mean necessarily that it is inherently ethical. But the idea of breastfeeding your child, it is natural and it is also damn well ethical. So anyway, so when we critique the use of nature in breastfeeding promotion, we're trying to call public health's attention to these realities. We're not arguing against efforts to convince people that breastfeeding is a normal act in order to help destigmatize things like women breastfeeding in public places, etc. But using the word natural in breastfeeding promotion implies a whole set of historically produced meanings. Freaking pedantry right here, folks. It's frustrating. What a dweeby little smartass. Specifically, ideas about what a good mother does and should do. I mean, oh God. The idea of what a mother should or should not do is different from what is natural or not natural. Should a mother vaccinate their kid for measles and smallpox? Sure. And that is the unnatural way and the synthetic way of handling diseases. Should a mother breastfeed their child? Generally, probably yes. And that is the natural way of going about it. Cat Chat says, gotta tune out now, boy. Oh. See you later, Cat. Hope you have a good day. Zachary Colley says, gonna head to Planet Fitness to work out, then call it a night. Later. We'll see you later, Zach. I just want to say, Planet Fitness sucks, y'all. I'm serious. Like the last few times I've been to Planet Fitness, they're a bunch of sissies, as far as I'm concerned. That freaking lunk alarm. If you go dropping something, you get the alarm sounded on you, and yeah, judgment-free zone my ass. No, yeah, there is judgment that goes on in there. If you're an overachiever at working out, yeah, that's a no-go. And apparently, I almost forgot this, but in Planet Fitness, they don't allow you to wear jeans while working out, or boots, or anything like that. They're rather picky with your style. So I'm over 2 hours, a little bit longer than I wanted to with this article and with this episode of Strike Force, but let's power through. Specifically, ideas about what a good mother does and should do, and how the division of labor in a household should fall along gendered lines, which I chart in my book, Back to the Breast, Natural Motherhood and Breastfeeding in America. Excuse me. We reiterate that we are not critiquing individual women or lay organizations for referencing breastfeeding as a natural act. Bullshit. You contradictory little hack, you. Again, reread that. We reiterate that we are not critiquing individual women or lay organizations for referencing breastfeeding as a natural act. Frustrating. That's how they understand and find meaning in breastfeeding. However, we think that public health campaigns shouldn't use language that can evoke ideologies and values about gender and nature that have nothing to do with the health benefits associated with breastfeeding. Oh, God. I'm just going to keep powering through until I see something different that I specifically want to respond to. So, Ms. Zimmerman asks, after having written this, do you think that given how charged and controversial breastfeeding is, it's even possible to write about semantics in this context? Yeah, I mean, get off of the semantics of it. Come on. Martucci says, I think that it is exactly because breastfeeding is so charged and controversial that we need to continue to try to offer careful critiques that complicate the highly polarized nature of the discourse surrounding breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is a topic that encapsulates so many of our political and cultural arguments about motherhood that it is bound to be charged and controversial. All the more reason for careful analysis that provokes more thoughtful discussions about the meanings our language invokes when we talk about breastfeeding and motherhood. You're going on about a non-issue here, and I just hate the precedent that your work leads off to is why that I'm here, folks. Zimmerman asks, are you surprised by all the animosity directed your way? Barnhill says, both of us have published on breastfeeding before. Mostly my experience as an academic is being irrelevant. Meaning that my academic work hasn't been drawn into or been seen as relevant to these polarized public debates about breastfeeding. Martucci, actually, the media coverage has been pretty nuanced. The reception by the public at large is where the messaging has gone off a bit. Zimmerman asks, if you were to write it again, would you reframe things? Martucci says, one of our primary regrets about the original piece is there's a section where we accidentally imply we're talking about individual behavior. The section focuses on a public health campaign in New York City that seems to elevate breastfeeding as preferable, describing it as mom-made compared to formula, which is depicted with the red circle that says factory-made. A lot of the ire from the public has come from that. Our intention was to focus public health on how hypocritical this use of the construct natural is. Hypocritical? What hypocrisy? What's so hypocritical? You're being vague. You're not giving enough information to show us to how hypocritical things are. Say that mom milk is natural and to say that formula is factory made or whatever is not hypocritical. How is that hypocritical? But it's not about individuals. It's more like, look at how ridiculously obvious this paradigm is that they're setting up. Natural being good, unnatural being bad. Not I'm sure if you were to pry them a little bit, that if they were to say that if you were to ask them, hey, is this one other natural act good? They'd probably say, no, not really. No. I mean, is that really the crux of their argument on natural being good and unnatural being bad? I don't know. I doubt it. It almost sounds like a straw man there, actually, quite frankly. So how can they be angry or surprised when people use that exact same language to resist vaccinations? Because they get taken out of context? I don't know. Zimmerman asks, so what might a breastfeeding campaign look like that doesn't rely on the word natural or evoke that concept? Martucci says, you can certainly emphasize specific health benefits, and you could also mention other aspects of breastfeeding that don't rely on the rhetoric of the natural. For instance, a dynamic process between mother and baby. Zimmerman asks, what's the next paper you're thinking about writing? Barnhill asks, or says, I think a lot about ethical issue pertaining to food, agriculture, and nutrition. We see natural cropping up in other issues, genetically modified foods and agriculture. I think there's another interesting paper to be written about the categories of sustainability and the natural, and how it's important to keep them distinct, just like it's important to keep the categories of healthy and natural distinct. End of that piece of crap article. Absolute garbage, folks. Anyway, then nothing new in the live chat, so I think I will actually end this live stream here in a few seconds. But I don't think I read that live chat by Benjamin Schultz in the live chat here, actually. But he says, I like your cut, G. Well, thanks, Ben. Really appreciate it. Actually, just recently got it cut. Just yesterday, actually. You cannot hardly make out my haircut with me being on live stream and all, but we'll have to meet up in person sometime, and you get a closer look. But anyway, that's it for this episode of Strike Force. I've went on too much longer than I should have, really, but nonetheless, yeah. Talked about the Australia fascistic lockdowns happening. We talked about dogs getting shot as a way to enforce COVID restrictions in Australia. We talked about the protests that happened in response to the fascistic lockdowns. We talked about how the Australian government is paying the lip service of flirting with the idea of lifting the lockdowns. We talked about vaccines and how it is possible that natural immunity is better than vaccine-induced immunity. And we talked about breastfeeding. Yeesh, I never thought on this program that I would have gone on so long about breastfeeding, y'all. But here we are. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and thank you all for the likes, and I will see y'all. Actually, one more announcement that I gotta make. Possibly this Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to be having another interview stream about capitalism. This time with Gabby the Mutualist, aka Ethical Pirate, although Ethical Pirate I don't think calls herself a mutualist anymore, but we'll have to talk about that come the live stream. I'm still having to get some more of the confirmation of the scheduling and whatnot. But nonetheless, that is the plan for right now. I will keep everybody in my Discord server at least up to date on what is happening. But so far, the plan is this Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to be interviewing, not just interviewing, but debating, sparring with Gabby the Mutualist a little bit on capitalism, excuse me. So stay tuned for that, and of course tune in for the next episode of Strike Force News next Tuesday, as we'll continue on talking about vaccines and whatnot, trying to break down all the essential information to determine as to whether or not it's a good idea that you get vaccinated, and to try and debunk all these claims possibly by all the vaccine mandate advocates. I'm your host, the Dark Conservatarian. Y'all have a good night. See you later, and God bless.